My name is Tree. I'm a textile and fibre artist here to guide you through the process of slow stitch for mindfulness. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-Wurrung people as the traditional owners and true sovereigns of the land. I'd also like to acknowledge the significant craft and textile skills of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I'd like to pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Today, we're going to be exploring slow stitching as a mindfulness tool. First, let's define what slow stitching is. Slow stitch is a slow approach to stitching on cloth, either through simple running stitches or even layering fabrics and stitching them together. A really important aspect of this process is that there isn't a defined goal or outcome. It's about being with your materials and with yourself. This process is about slowing down and giving space to explore with a needle and thread to see how the work unfolds on its own. Simple beauty in unexpected stitches, repurposing beloved fabrics to embody sustainability, and giving yourself the time and space to connect with your hands in a meaningful way. I've made this fabric journal because sometimes it's easier for me to communicate with thread than it is for me to communicate with words. It can help me process my emotions when talking isn't accessible to me. I've found that over the years, building this slow stitch journal has helped support my anxiety and help me get grounded and recentered when hard feelings are at the surface. The beauty of slow stitch is that there are no rules. This is a process that is about experiencing non-judgment. So what's the benefit of slowing down? It gives us room to think and feel because there's no rules. It can help create a low-pressure space for yourself to explore your own creativity. This activity can help reduce stress when part of an ongoing practice and can help you access compassion for yourself and helps carve out a space for gentleness. Even the act of sewing together a slow stitch fabric journal can be a soothing process. So the keywords here are slow, intentional, intuition, non-judgment, connection. Let's talk about gathering your materials. To begin the slow stitch process, here are some examples of simple materials to get you started. Scissors, and you don't need to have fancy craft scissors. You really just need scissors that can cut your thread. Next is the thread. I have sewing thread and embroidery thread just in case I want a different texture. Some fabric. Repurposed fabrics are really great to use in this process. Think about an old t-shirt or old tea towel. I've got some naturally dyed fabrics, a bit of an old shirt, some cotton. You'll also need needles, some extra but not necessary materials are hoops, lace or ribbons, and you could use a pin cushion to keep your needles safely organized. Last thing I have here is a thimble, which I might use to protect my fingers from the end of the sharp needle. Our first example is basic intuitive stitching. The materials we have are our chosen fabric, needle, scissors, and thread. First, we're going to measure out our thread using your forearm as a guide. So you hold your thread in your hand and bring it to the crease of your elbow. This trick gives the thread a length that means that it won't get tangled or knotted while you're sewing. Give it a snip and pull the thread between your fingers. This is a nice way to connect with your material, while the natural oils of your skin also helps the thread to stay untangled. Don't be afraid to wet the tip of the thread while you're threading the needle, and if you're like me, put your glasses on. Open up your fabric. If you have a hoop, this is when you'd want to use it. I'm going to show you without using a hoop. Now, find a section you'd like to start from This could be the edge bit, or you could pick anywhere. I'm choosing this part in the middle because that's where my creativity is leading me. Remember, there aren't any rules and there's no way to do it wrong. This is all about intuition. The stitch that I'm working on is called a running stitch. It's just an in and out motion with the needle and thread. I'm gonna go in a different direction now. This is so much about the process instead of the end result. If it feels easier, you can do one stitch at a time, and this will allow you to go even slower and spend more time with your materials. See how I'm just going in and out? It's really slow and simple. See how I'm creating a little design? That's just coming out from my intuition, no pre-planning necessary. Just letting the stitch go where it wants to go. Sometimes when I'm stitching like this, I'll try and notice how the fabric feels in my hands, and I'll try to listen to the sound of the thread being pulled through the fabric. Taking the needle off, you can see that I left the string visible. Reminders of where I came from and where I went. There's a lot of symbolism in slow stitch. I could spend a few mindful days filling up the rest of this, but I just wanted to give you a quick example of how to get started. In this example, I've picked out some repurposed lace and a piece from an old t-shirt and another piece of fabric. I'm just figuring out how I want to layer these pieces. This could be one little slow stitch project, or I might add it to another project in the future. This is a nice process to just see how I want it to be. What do I want this to look like? Now I'm double knotting the thread to give it a secure base. Use a pin to secure the fabrics together. Starting from the back of the piece, push your needle through and pull the thread. Begin your stitching. Running stitch is a great stitch because it goes in, out, in, out. It's almost like a breathing exercise. It's nice to have a cup of tea, and if it's warm enough, the window open to let in some fresh air while you're stitching. Slow stitch is about taking the pressure off and allowing your creativity to help you wander. This process can also be a friend. If you feel like you need some company, slow stitch can be someone you can engage with at your own pace in the comfort of your own home. When it comes to slow stitch, remember, resources are your friend. You can reference books like this embroidery book, where you can learn about different types of stitches and practice learning new skills. This book, Slow Stitch by Claire Wellesley Smith, is a book I love and have referenced in my own projects over time. Yarra Libraries has this book in their collection if you want to check it out. Books on stitching can show you how slow stitch and mindfulness go hand in hand. Here's a beautiful example by someone who is a novice at slow stitch. Look how they made running stitches on this Libraries Change Lives tote bag during Stage 4 lockdown. There are so many types of fabrics and colours you can use to express yourself. Thank you for joining me on this little dip into the practice of slow stitching. I hope this brings you some inspiration for finding gentle moments to spend with needle, thread, and most importantly with yourself. Be sure to check out other craft videos by the Yarra Libraries Make Do team for Mental Health Week. Take care.